Next, I'd like to introduce Sharon Burton, again, someone that I've known for many years and have admired from afar. Sharon Burton is Metro Washington, D.C. area visual artist and independent curator. She is the founder and creative director of Authentic Contemporary Art, which integrated social justice themed exhibitions as a way to promote visual art and to connect collectors to emerging and undiscovered visual artists in the DC area. She launched ARTINISTA, Art Advisory, to provide art consultancy services for professional women. And again, long, great resume, but I'm going to turn the floor over to Sharon.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Good. Y'all hanging in there? I'm hanging. All right. I want to thank Myrtis for inviting me. I feel very honored to be with these collectors. I never really thought of myself at that level, and I appreciate the acknowledgement to be able to meet such great folks. How this whole thing began. I've been an artist since, yes, one of my favorite exhibitions. I've been an artist since, what, 2 years old, Sherry?
Right here.
Oh, okay, 2 years old, when we scribbled on my parents' wall. My sister and I, Sister Sherry, who is my twin, so if you think that you were seeing double or the storm messed you up, it's her. And so I've always loved art and practiced art, did a lot of art in high school. And like many of us that finished school in the mid to late 80s, you know, the biggest thing was what? Business, law, sciences. I think the kids that are coming out today, I really envy them because the arts is so embraced now. But it wasn't at that time. So if I was going to go to college, I had to get something that was quote unquote affordable. So I went into business and then later public administration. But while I was in Atlanta, I lived in Atlanta from '95 to 2003, and really got caught up with the National Black Arts Festival, which some of you probably are familiar with, and particularly the year that this exhibition came to Conserve a Legacy, which was a great survey of African American art, and also by other artists as well, from several historically black colleges, including Howard, Hampton, and a few others. And I just fell in love with it. I was in grad school at Clark Atlanta University, and I got so involved with it because some of the work was actually at the Clark Atlanta University Gallery, which I'm so excited they did a retrospective catalog of their work recently, so I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. But anyway, so this was the exhibition. This was the whole year. I started going to a lot of the shows, Spelman's Museum, as well as the High, and as well as Clark Atlanta University. Started going to a lot of the art talks because I just thought it was awesome. I have a friend that I call my other mom, and you know, a lot of my contemporaries at the time were like, you know, art. They weren't very comfortable going to galleries and that sort of thing, and so we would go to all the galleries and all the museums in the Atlanta area for different shows, and it would just be her and me, and we would have a lot of fun with that. So, but anyway, this is a very special exhibition to me, and will always mark my interest in really art professionally and going back to my own art personally down the road. My collection focus, my strategy is much like my friend here, Sherry. It's very broad, based on my personal interests and what attracts my eye. I am into contemporary art. As Daryl mentioned, there's a lot of wonderful artists that are contemporaries that are doing some great work. I would love to get some of the masters, and you know, if I had that kind of funding stream, but you know, I think eventually I'm going to get some of that. Most of the artists that I support tend to be in the Washington, D.C. area. As was mentioned earlier, I think Howard is not only has a historical presence in visual art, but still does. And I think I really believe in the work in this area, and particularly of a lot of our African American artists. So I support a lot of them. My themes, if you were to look at my collection, family relationships, the things that I kind of treasure actually, self-reflection, works that remind me of myself and how I think about the world, sisterhood, my relationship with my twin, as well as in other organizations, and friendship. The styles that you would find in my collection is abstract. I like the pop street look, the graffiti look that is very popular with a lot of collectors these days, and abstract realism. The mediums I tend to be drawn to are prints. I love etchings, and of course the acrylics on canvas, mixed media. I'm a mixed media artist myself, so I really love to see how other artists use that medium, and even some fiber. I love photography as well, and that's something I kind of want to get into more down the road. Collecting as an artist, a lot of the artists in the DC area I know personally through my own work or through my relationships with other artists in different organizations or situations. I like to observe how they do work. So a lot of times I'm drawn to a work because I just want to see how did they do that from an artist's point of view. And a lot of the work that I collect serves as inspiration for my own work, not to copy it, but just maybe the subject matter, maybe some of the mediums, you know, some of the chances that the artist took to create the work interest me. Collection purpose, I think pretty much all of the last two presenters are kind of in agreement with me. Aesthetic, I love living with art. I think living with art is just the most awesome thing. And I have somebody mentioned something about going into a place with nothing on the walls. That happened to me the other weekend. I went to a friend's social gathering, and she had nothing on her walls, and I'm like, you need to get some art. You know, it's just something about that. You know, it just seemed cold to me. And she had been there for like 8 years. She said, I just don't know what to get. I said, trust me, we can help you out a little bit. But, I think living with art, things that reflect who you are. And I also say things that people don't really think about. We're living in a very technological society where everything is manipulated and reproduced and manufactured. And I think visual art, you know, and anybody that wants to argue with me can do that, is one of the last things that is done by a human being that has taken time to develop it from their head, not from anything else. And you know, you have to, you know, that's to me, that's sacred, you know, in a world that's changing rapidly. Educational, I think that as in all societies and in all of the art that we've talked about, all of the art that's here from other collectors, it reflects history. And we're living in some very dynamic times. And I think that a lot of the art is reflecting everything from the political upheavals that we're seeing not only in this country but around the world, to what it's like to live at a time like this. And you know, we can talk about that more later. As Myrtis mentioned, I launched an advisory consulting firm last year, latter part of last year, called the ARTINISTA Art Advisory. And the reason I did that was, one, I kept running into a lot of professional women like myself that wanted to collect and wanted to learn about art, but, you know, you know, they were curious about it, but they wanted to know more. They wanted to know in a relaxing atmosphere. These are women that want to network with each other. And, you know, they're not so much, you know, stodgy women. Most of them are in their late 30s, early 40s. Some of them are first generation college. So they may not have a collection background from their families. you know, not highbrow at all. So just start meeting with them and taking them to different exhibitions. This is, I was involved with the 30 Americans. I was on the advisory committee, and that was a very fulfilling experience. And had an opportunity to bring my group there to the exhibition and talk about it. Again, you know, we try to do different meetings. Again, the mission is to just sort of give them an opportunity to explore art, not just collecting per se, but just you know, the history of art, to learn what attracts their eye, what is interesting to them, all the stuff that has been said earlier. Let's see. This is just a little bit from my collection. I am absolutely crazy about Billy Colbert. I just love his work. If you're not familiar with him, I think he's one of the most exciting artists in the DC area right now. And I had an opportunity to get this limited edition silkscreen through the Millennium Art Salon, which I'm very active with. Of course, I'm a big Joe Holston fan as well. And I really like this etching. I just love that whole saxophone. I love the saxophone as one of my favorite instruments, so I thought this was a really nice rendering of that. I don't know how many people know Gwen Akey Brooks. I love her work. This particular piece, really, I just love the whole thing of sisterhood, of women coming together, has an African feel to it. And of course, I love the colors and how she used mixed media in that, so I have that in my collection. And this young lady is really taking, Keisha Bruce. I don't know if anybody's familiar with her. She lives in France, but she's represented by a gallery in DC. Does a lot of mixed media work. I love this one. It reminds me of my sorority and the traditions of lady womanhood and all that good stuff. So it's a mixed media piece that I purchased recently. And then I got this one from Elsa's work right here at the gallery. I've been a big fan of her for quite some time. It's a small piece, acrylic on canvas. And finally, Victor Epic, I think Epic. That, yeah. Victor knows I love Victor to death. I know him as a personal friend and as a fellow artist. I had an opportunity to curate a show for Millennium Art Salon a few years ago and absolutely fell in love with this particular piece. Now, it's very different than what you usually see of him, but because of that difference, I liked it. And so I got it. And he does a lot of work with pastel and graphite on paper for a lot of his drawings, so I just thought it was cool. So, that's it.